Hello everyone. So we have concluded module 4, that is filing of GSTR1 return. GSTR1 return is the return for reporting the outward supplies. So now let us move with the Q&A session. So first question, explain the primary purpose of Form GSTR1 and identify the types of registered person who are mandated to file it. So GSTR1 is a return to disclose the turnover achieved during the reporting period, that is either monthly or quarterly. It is the return to disclose the outward supplies. In GSTR1, there are multiple tables that are required to be filled up by the taxpayer, like B2B supplies, where transaction takes place between the registered person, then B2C supplies, where the sales are made to the unregistered person, then B2C large invoices, where there are interstate supplies to unregistered person for a value exceeding rupees 1 lakh, then nil rated or exempted supplies to both registered and unregistered person. Then the taxpayers are required to disclose the HSN summary both for the registered supplies and the unregistered supplies, and the documents issued like tax invoice series, then receipt note, debit note, credit note, payment note, etc. So these are the different fields. Also, GSTR1 is also required for amending any records of the previously filed returns. So the amendment fields are also available in GSTR1 return, which enables a taxpayer to amend certain details which have been wrongly or inadvertently disclosed in prior periods GSTR1 return. So as per the slide, GSTR1 is a statement detailing a taxpayer's outward supplies, that is sales of goods or services or both. It is filed on a monthly or quarterly basis as opted by the taxpayer. It captures all outward supply transactions, which includes those made to registered person, that is B2B supplies, then unregistered person, that is B2C supplies, then exports, and nil rated, then exempted supplies and non-GST supplies. All the regular taxpayers registered under GST are required to file GSTR1, except for those who are registered under the composition scheme. So composition dealers are required to file CMP 08 instead of GSTR1 return. Then non-resident taxable persons, they are required to file GSTR 5 return. Then input service distributors, they are required to file GSTR 6 return, and person liable to deduct TDS or collect TCS. These persons are not required to file GSTR 1 return. So moving ahead, a business makes sales to both registered, that is B2B parties, and unregistered, that is B2C customers within the same state, that is intrastate. Explain how these two types of transactions should be reported in GSTR1 return, specifically focusing on invoices versus consolidated reporting. In this case, the business has executed only intrastate supplies, so CGST and SGST will only be charged. IGST will not be charged. For B2B intrastate supplies, individual invoice details must be reported in table 4 of GSTR1. In table 4, details like recipient's GSTIN number, invoice number, invoice date, total invoice value, taxable value, and the tax rate details are to be filled up. Also, once the taxable value is filled up in the respective tax rate tables, the tax amount is auto calculated by the system. For B2C intra-state supplies, these can generally be reported as a consolidated summary under table 5, that is B2C others, on a state-wise and rate-wise basis. So, while reporting such B2C transactions, invoice number and other details are not to be filled up. Only the GST rate and state of supply shall be mentioned. Individual invoice details are not required for B2C others unless they are interstate B2C invoices above rupees 2.5 lakhs. This limit of 2.5 lakhs has been reduced to 1 lakh. So, wherever we find this 2.5 lakh, read it as 1 lakh, which are reported under B2C large invoices. So, in this example or in this question, the sales made to B2B and B2C customers has to be reported in table 4 and the B2C supplies to be reported in table 5 B2C others. Next, a business exports goods under a letter of undertaking, that is LUT, without paying IGST. What information is required to be furnished in GSTR1 for such export invoices and which specific table should be used? So under GST, an exporter has two options. One is obtaining letter of undertaking, and in such a case he is not required to pay GST upfront, and another is payment of GST upfront and subsequently claiming the refund of the input tax credit or the taxes amount that has been paid. So for exports made under LUT without payment of IGST, the invoices should be reported in table 6A, that is specifically meant for exports. Mandatory details includes the invoice number, invoice date, shipping bill number, shipping bill date, and the port code. So these details must be filled up very cautiously because the refund in case of exports are granted on the basis of details furnished in GSTR 1 return. The tax rate should be shown as 0% for these exports. It is crucial to correctly map the export invoices to the without payment of tax category. So while entering data in table 6A, there are two options. One is with payment of tax and another is without payment of tax. So the taxpayer must select the correct option carefully and proceed with this option. So in case where the taxpayer has not opted for LUT, he has to pay the GST amount upfront, and once the data is matched with the IceGate data, that is the data with the customs, automatic refund is granted to the designated bank account within 45 days. Next, what information is required to be reported in the document issued summary, that is table 13 of GSTR 1. Provide examples of the types of documents included. So under GST, the length of document number to be reported in table 13 of the GSTR 1 return cannot exceed 16 characters. So if the invoice number of a taxpayer exceeds 16 characters, then the portal will not accept. So the document series must be carefully drafted. So table 13 document issued summary of GSTR 1 requires reporting the total number of documents issued during the tax period. It is categorized by document type along with the serial number issued. For example, it includes tax invoices for B2B and B2C large invoices, bill of supply, debit note, credit note, receipt voucher, payment voucher, refund voucher and delivery, challan for job work or goods sent on approval. This table provides a reconciliation of documents issued by the taxpayer. So the taxpayer has to first enter the document series from and to the details, then the total number of documents issued. He has to then also furnish the number of documents that has been cancelled, and the system will automatically calculate the net number of documents that has been issued. Next, a business has a large volume of B2B invoices, example 1000 plus per month. Which mode of preparing for GSTR1 would be most efficient, and what are the initial steps to use this mode? For businesses with large volume of invoices, the most efficient mode of preparing is using the offline Excel utility or a third-party software like GSP or Tally. Such softwares are capable of generating JSON file. So the initial steps for preparing data in offline utility is, first we have to go to the GST portal, that is www.gst.gov.in, and download the latest version of written offline tools from the download section there. Once the utility has been downloaded, it has to be installed in the system, and the Excel template also comes with the utility. The entire data of GSTR1 has to be filled up in the Excel template. All the informations like B2B transactions, B2C transaction, B2C large transaction, HSN codes, document summary, exports, nil rated sales, and everything that is required to be filled up in GSTR1 return has to be filled up in the Excel template. Once the entire data has been filled up in the Excel template, this template has to be imported in the utility that have been downloaded. So after the data feeding is done, we have to open the offline utility that we have downloaded and import this Excel file to this utility. Once the entire data is imported, there is an option to generate JSON file. We have to click on that option to generate the JSON file, and we can save the JSON file at the desired location. Once the JSON file has been saved, we have to then open the GST portal and log into our account. Then we have to go to the GSTR1 return, and there is an option of preparing the return online or offline. So we have to choose the return preparation in offline mode. Once we choose this option, there is an option to attach the JSON file that we have generated. So we will attach the JSON file, and either it will be processed with no error or it will be processed with error, and hence we cannot proceed for the filing. If it is processed with error, then we have to see what are the errors and we have to rectify and repeat the entire procedure again. And once the file validation is successful, we can proceed to file the GSTR1 return. Next, after generating the JSON file using the offline utility, describe the process of uploading this file to the GST portal and validating the data. We just discussed this, but let us discuss this in more detail. So once the JSON file has been generated by using the offline utility, we have to first log into the GST portal using our login credentials. Then we have to navigate to services. Under services, we have to choose the return option, and under returns, we have to go to the return dashboard. Then we have to select the financial year and return filing period, and then we have to click on search. Under GSTR1 title, choose the upload via JSON option. So there is an option of prepare return offline. We have to choose that option in order to upload a JSON file. Then select the JSON file generated from our system and click upload. Once the JSON file that we have generated is selected and uploaded, the portal will process and validate the uploaded data. If there are some errors at the time of validation, the processing will be completed with an error, and that error is required to be complied with, and we have to then again repeat the entire procedure. The error log can be downloaded for review. The uploaded invoice will be populated into the respective GSTR1 tables on the portal. So the entire GSTR1 return will be imported at the respective tables if we have already generated the JSON file and used the filing offline option. Preparing the return offline option. So moving ahead, a taxpayer realizes that they reported an incorrect GSTIN for a B2B recipient in a previously filed GSTR1 return. Is this error amendable, and if so, how can it be rectified in subsequent GSTR1 return? So in the given scenario, the customer GSTIN is a detail that cannot be amended at the invoice label once GSTR1 is filed. If the original filing period is still open for amendments, the correct approach would be to delete the incorrect invoice from the original GSTR1 and upload a fresh invoice with the correct GSTIN. Otherwise, they might need to issue a credit note against the incorrect GSTIN and raise a new invoice for the correct GSTIN in the current period. If the recipient had not taken action on the invoice, they will not be able to amend those invoices. So, in case where an incorrect GSTIN has been furnished in a GST return, it cannot be amended in the subsequent period if the recipient of such invoices or the recipient whose GSTIN has been inadvertently or mistakenly entered in the GSTR1 return has already accepted that invoice, then in such a case, amendment is not possible. In such case, the correct way is to issue a credit note against the said invoice and issue a fresh invoice with correct details of the recipient in the subsequent period. But if the recipient has not taken any action, then GSTR1 can be amended and the GSTIN of the recipient whose GSTIN has been inadvertently punched in the GSTR1 return can be amended in the subsequent period GSTR1 return. Moving ahead, what is the cutoff date for making amendments or rectifications to invoice related to a particular financial year in GSTR1? So the cutoff date for amending details or rectifying errors or omission in invoices of a previous financial year in GSTR1 is the 30th day of November of the following financial year or the date of filing of annual return, that is GSTR9 for that financial year, whichever is earlier. For example, for financial year 22-23, the deadline for amendment is November 30th, 23. After this date, the amendment for that financial year not allowed. A taxpayer submitted their GSTR1 with several invoices containing incorrect GSTIN for the recipient. How will this error impact the recipient, and what is the process for rectification by the supplier? So incorrect GSTIN in GSTR1 will prevent the corresponding invoices from reflecting correctly in the recipient's GSTR2A and 2B forms. This means that the recipient will not be able to claim the input tax credit for those invoices until the error is rectified. To rectify this, the supplier must log into the GST portal, go to the return dashboard, select the relevant period and use the B2B amendment section or the relevant amendment table for the other type of data that needs to be amended. They need to locate the specific invoices with the incorrect GSTIN, modify the GSTIN to the correct one and save the changes. This amendment will then be reflected in the recipient's GSTR2A or 2B in the subsequent period, allowing them to claim the input tax credit. Such amendments is allowed only once. Also, if the GSTIN which were inadvertently punched in the GSTR1 return has already taken action against such invoices and accepted those invoices, then the amendments will not work. In such a case, the supplier has to raise a credit note using the same GSTIN that were inadvertently punched, and once the credit note has been issued, a fresh invoice against the correct GSTIN has to be raised. This activity has to be done in the subsequent periods GSTR1 return. A small business has been registered under GST for a few months but has not made any outward supplies in a particular quarter. Is it mandatory for them to file GSTR1 for that quarter? And also, how can they file a nil return? So, it is mandatory for every registered taxpayer to file GSTR1 for each tax period, either monthly or quarterly, even if there are no outward supplies. This is known as filing of nil GSTR1 return. So, a nil GSTR1 return can be filed in two ways. One is using the web-based services, that is by logging in to our GST account, and second one is through a SMS. So, for the first one, that is by using the web-based services, we have to log into our account through the official website of GST, that is www.gst.gov.in. We have to feed our login credentials and we have to log into our account. Then we have to navigate to services. Under services we have returns. Then under returns we have return dashboard option. There in the return dashboard option we have to select the financial year and the relevant month or the quarter. Once we have selected the period, we have to then click on the prepare online option under GSTR1 return. Then on the GSTR1 page, select the file nil GSTR1 checkbox that is appearing at the leftmost corner of the GSTR1 return. If any data was previously saved, it must be deleted or reset first in order to file a nil GSTR1 return. Then click the file statement button, and once we have clicked on the file statement button, we have to validate the return by an OTP that is sent on the registered mobile number and the registered email ID. So select the declaration checkbox, choose the authorized signatory and click either file with DSC or file with EBC to sign and file the GST return. Next is the mode, that is the through SMS. We can file nil GSTR1 return through SMS services. So we have to send an SMS to 14409 from the registered mobile number in the format nil, then the return type, that is R1, then the GSTIN, we have to enter the GSTIN, then the period, that is month, and the year, that is YY format for a quarterly filer or a monthly filer. For example, if there is a nil return for a quarterly filer, then we have to enter R1, then the 15-digit GSTIN, then suppose it's for the first quarter, then we have to enter the quarter ended on 30th June, that is 6th month and year 2025. So in this way we have to enter the entire detail and send it to 14409. A verification code will be received. We have to send another SMS in the format of CNF space R1 to confirm the filing, and upon the submission of this message, an ARN will be generated for successful filing. So in this way, nil GSTR1 return is filed. So here we have concluded with the fourth module. We'll now proceed to the fifth module. So thank you.